Hello, hello, hello. Thank you, everybody, once again for joining me for another episode of About My Father's Business Thursdays. If you haven't watched me before, on Thursday, I like to highlight Christian businesses. And as I always say, we always need all the help that we can get. So I know for me, I like it when, people help me and what I'm trying to do to pursue God's calling for my life. And I feel like as Christians, we should always be kind of doing that for each other. Because when you help another Christian, you're helping God. So and let me not say you're helping God as if he needs our help. So let me clarify that.
Right.
But, you get my point. So today we have some special guests, Andrea Anderson and Erin K. They have a very unique business where they actually help mothers to understand how to honor their body or honor God with their body. And I think they make a lot of good points about the difference between I'm sorry, how women kind of get wrapped up in taking care of other people that a lot of times we forget to take care of ourselves. So I think this is very important. Health and wellness itself is becoming a more popular in the culture that we in today. And so I think this is a very important topic to discuss. But before we get into their business, which is called Holy Healthy Christian Moms LLC, I want you guys to introduce yourselves and let everybody know who you are.
All right. Do you want me to start, Erin?
Yeah, alphabetical.
All right. It's always like the Christian way. No, you go first. No,
Right.
I'll go first. I will just take that ball and run with it. Okay. So yes, hi, I'm Andrea Anderson. So I am a certified life coach, certified health coach. I live in the Cleveland, Ohio area with my husband. We have 4 children, one girl, 3 boys. Ranging in age from almost 13 up to almost 19.
Okay, wow.
And yeah, and I'll turn it over to Erin and then we can get into more of the stories just to
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Erin Kay. I am a licensed master level social worker and a certified Christian health coach. I live in South Carolina and I'm a mom to 4 beautiful children, ages 9, 7, and 5-year-old twins.
Yeah, wow. So we're all in the same club when it comes to motherhood. I have 5 kids. You ladies have 4. And so I think it really takes a special woman to have that number of kids. We don't, some people don't understand like what it is to have that many kids. And so I know I've met a few people with more kids than that, and I just think they're insane. Like, I don't know why. but so we belong to a very select group of women. We have experiences. So now you guys, you ladies, I have a tendency to say you guys, but you ladies have a business where you try to, help women to understand the importance of taking care of themselves, and that doing so actually is, bringing God into the experience of honoring your body. Like, it's very, very, very important. And so, but before you talk about kind of the services you offer and what you do, how did you get into this? Like, what was it? Because it's usually always a personal story that goes with the passions that people have and what they invest their time into, especially their calling. So I want everybody to understand, or the ladies watching to understand your personal experience and how you got into this and why you think it's so important.
Yeah. Erin, you take it away this time.
Yeah. So my journey, like you said, it started as a very personal one. I had never really had issues with my weight growing up. I'll say that because I wasn't healthy, but my weight I didn't really have issues with. Therefore, I thought I was healthy. But kind of to short circuit to the good stuff here, I went through a series of life traumas after my twins were born. And we were in some serious medical debt after they got RSV. They were in the hospital. We almost lost our daughter at 9 weeks old. Then we had these 2 toddlers at home. I mean, it was just like high stress, lots of big T and little t traumas.
Yeah.
And so what does the typical mom do? They put their health on the back burner so they can take care of everybody else.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. And I ended up working for a company teaching English over in China. So I would work all night and then I would be a mom all day. And then I would just live off of peanut M&Ms and soda. Wow. So I gained a ton of weight. I mean, it was horrible. So I gained a ton of weight. And then we my family and I, we got our act together, so to speak. And when the dust was kind of settling, one morning, God looked me in the eye in his way that he communicates with us and he said, "You're not honoring me with your body. The way you're taking care of your body, you're not honoring me. And you need to do something about it. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I reached out and I got help, and I lost the weight. And then I started to help other people to lose the weight from a secular view. And the women I worked with were putting the weight back on. And I was looking at, well, why are they doing this? Why do we keep going on this yo-yo and this circle round and round? And the biggest thing that was missing was that faith component. They were not tying it back to God. So then I branched out and got my Christian health coach certification, and and then here we are today with lots of steps in between. But that's the short version of the long story of how I ended up here.
Wow. So can you tell me, like, how much weight did you gain? I'm curious. Like, yeah.
Yeah. So when I started to lose weight, I weighed the same amount that I did the day that I delivered my twins.
Oh, wow.
And my twins were 7 pounds apiece. I had they were fraternal twins. So I had 2 placentas, 2 amniotic sacs, 2 babies. I mean, it was a lot what I was carrying with them. I mean, it was a lot. But I have lost 70 pounds, 70.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot. Wow. And I mean, of course, I'm a mom, as we talked about before, and I can totally relate to that. For a period of my life, I was even a single mother, and I was in school and I was working and I had kids. And it's just very easy to grab something that's quick. You have to eat, because if you don't, you pass out. And so
Yes.
I was seeing myself, like, I was always, hey, run into a restaurant on the way home, because then that saves me time and I don't have to cook and blah, blah, blah. And before you knew it, I was like, oh, where did this spare tire come from?
Yeah.
And so it really, but before then, and I think especially when you're younger, especially for me, you don't think about what you're eating very much. And it's not until you get older, especially women, because we start to hold on to weight a little bit easier as we get older, that I'm like, oh, I can't eat like that anymore. Like, it's not working.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I totally relate to that. And so Andrea, so what about you? How did you get into this? What's your story?
Yes. So the big thing for me was actually my dad's diagnosis with heart disease about 9-ish years ago now. Growing up, like I've never struggled with my weight. So in the way society tends to define health is by how you look on the outside, which that it's not true. And also, up until I think I had my 3rd child, I didn't struggle too much with getting sick beyond like the normal stuff, like you expect to get the flu, colds, all of that. But that also changed for me in that time, where I started to feel run down and sick, and it was annoying because who likes to feel sick? But yeah, the thing that God really used to open my eyes to how we define health and what I was doing with my body was my dad's diagnosis with heart disease, which I shouldn't have been shocked by it, because heart disease does run in his family, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all of that. But the reason that it felt shocking is because at the time he was in the best shape of his life as I perceived him to be. Like pretty much, he was probably the best shape of his life from like teenagehood, and he had spent 5 to 6 years prior to a diagnosis actually paying attention to his health. So he looked great, and he was able to do a lot of things physically that he wasn't necessarily able to before. And he was actually on the treadmill of a like fitness checkup that was offered through his work. And they pulled him off because were starting to get back stats from that. And they're like, you need to get off this treadmill right now.
Wow.
So we found out he had 80 to 90% blockage in his right carotid artery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it felt like he was like a ticking time bomb. It's like, oh my gosh, is my dad going to drop dead?
Wow.
And ironically, the year before he was diagnosed, a friend who was a nurse had made my mom aware of this book called Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. It's written by a cardiologist who is now retired from the Cleveland Clinic. And essentially, the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease book is about a very extreme version of a plant-based diet to help correct or slow down the progression of heart disease. And who wants heart surgery, right? So my parents were like, well, let's try this, because essentially we have nothing to lose. If it doesn't work, we have heart surgery. If it does work, we don't have heart surgery.
Right.
And God just had me be really convicted to read the book. And as I was reading it, I just felt like this, like following a plant-based diet was something I needed to do because genetically that could be a reality. Heart disease shows up in women different than men. So I didn't want to make assumptions. A lot of what was shared in that book, it just made sense. And I'm like, I'm going to do this also to support my dad. So I started to follow that and I felt great. I had more energy. The color and tone of my skin improved. And my body, it liked it. So I have continued with mostly a plant-based diet. I occasionally will have meat here and there, but I just my body functions well, mostly on plants. And then a few years after that, I was still struggling with some gut health issues, which I was like, why? Because I'm eating, well. And so as I was crying out to God to heal me from that, he was like, detox from sugar. And that's where I was like, I don't like that answer. There's got to be another way, And so I was like, I'll try to find something. I'm like, I will try to figure this out, God, because I don't like that. And he's like, okay, go do your thing. And yet it didn't work. So I had to keep going back to him, praying, can you please heal me from these gut health issues? They're really annoying. He's like, yes, detox from sugar. And it took a while before I was like, okay, I'll do it your way. And it healed the gut health issues. And then even more, increase the energy, decrease the anxiety I experienced. And I was able to drastically reduce the amount of seasonal allergy medication I took by following that. So all of that, that's kind of where my passion and like what God had to teach me through those two big pieces in health is kind of brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's like amazing, but it's a little bit scary at the same time because a lot of the foods that we eat are not the best. And you just get we get so busy with life, work, things like that, that it's very easy to, even if you're not eating restaurant food, because sometimes even the food and the processed food from the grocery store is not even the best to be eating. But it just becomes a very normal part of life, and you don't realize the effects that it's going to have on you down the line. I've heard so many stories now about people who just needed to change their diet. Like even there was a lady that was on a few months ago. She was having some health issues, and she started changing what she's eating, and it has such a big effect on her health. And it's just like something you don't think about, but it's something that's very, very, very important at the same time. And I know that all of us, I know especially for me, could probably benefit from watching, I don't necessarily consider myself a bad eater, but I know if I really got down and started examining the stuff that I'm eating compared to, what is healthy and can give me some type of health benefits, I probably might need to cut a few things, out. And but when you eat these things regularly for 10, 20, 30 years, and then later you have problems, it's amazing that it came from your food, like, what you're eating. So, Andrea, one thing that I really found interesting about what you're saying, and I do think it's important as well, is hereditary, because in my mom, diabetes runs in her family, and then with her dad, he died from diabetes, and so as I'm getting older, it's more in the forefront of my mind, like you need to keep an eye on this. With my last daughter, I got gestational diabetes, and that's the first time I had it, and of course, it increases the chance you can get it later. And so it's really like, I need to keep a watch on this now and keep it down now, or I'm going to develop a problem. And I think it's really good that you did that. You realize that, yeah, your father's having this issue, but you're his daughter, and, you really need to keep an eye on it because, what our parents passed down our, DNA, but they also, teach us, they help our minds mature, they give us, I call spiritual DNA. And so it's really good to watch those patterns in your parents and understand that they apply to you as well, and kind of get a head start on it before it turns into a bigger problem. So I think that was really smart actually for you to do that, especially when you didn't have to,
Yeah, and that was definitely all the Lord.
And I like what you just said about the spiritual DNA, because something that Andrea and I really focus on with our women is generational curses and breaking those
Mm,
generational curses,
mm,
which is a totally different component of health that most societies like on the outside, like how you look, but it's so much deeper
yeah, it is.
than
It is.
that.
Yeah.
So we focus on that, on breaking these generational curses, not to put down our parents or put down our parents, but to understand that we learn things and it
Mm,
shows up whether we want it to or not.
yeah.
So just helping to break some of those cycles.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And I have a whole theory about generational curses and things like that. So I really like that you say that. And I do think it's important because people don't understand the effect that a lot of those things, they don't only not only on your choices, but also on your health. Because if you're under stress a lot of the time, or you're worried a lot of the time and things like that, they can eventually create some serious health problems for you. And I was just telling my daughter yesterday, because she was getting stressed out about her schoolwork, like stress can kill you. So you really need to be careful about getting overly stressed over things that, it's not a life or death thing. And I think I read before that, in this day and age that we live in now, people are under much more stress than they have ever been throughout human history. We kind of live off of this diet of stress, so to speak, and it's really affecting our health in general. So yeah.
Yeah, stress is also like, that was almost a final puzzle piece for my own health story. That God, it wasn't until I went through the health coach certification a few years ago that I actually really understood how deeply stress had impacted my health. And certainly, especially if you could be higher risk for heart disease, that you need to monitor that, but anybody does. Anyway, but it's taken me like a good 2 to 3 years of actively practicing like getting to the spiritual roots, breaking off generational
Wow.
things, patterns, and mindsets, and little t traumas, and persisting in the things that we do for our health. Where just in the past, I don't know, like literally this last week, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I actually feel more like myself now, where stress and anxiety doesn't feel like a constant companion like it did, even like a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So this is it's making me think about my own stuff. So now let's bring this back to moms, because we're talking about all of this in the context of moms, and this is what your business is about. Like, you approach all of this from a mom's perspective, because we are notorious for taking care of other people and not really taking very good care of ourselves, and that boils down to a lot of times self-esteem, like you said, generational curse and things like that. So can you talk about this health thing in relation to moms?
Take it away, Erin. You start.
Yeah. Yeah. So with moms, as women, let's just go back to women for a second. As women, God has given us the gifting to be compassionate caregivers and to nurture. I mean, we are ingrained in our fingerprint from God to be caregivers and to nurture people. And we can take that to the extreme as moms. We can over nurture others and under nurture ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Women are designed, like I said, to nurture. So
Yeah.
who nurtures us?
Yeah.
We're left to the nurture of other people, and we're left to nurture ourselves, and
Yeah.
that can be a very heavy, it's not a burden, but a heavy responsibility if we allow it to be.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times what we see with moms is that these stories and these lies populate that you're not good enough to nurture yourself. You don't have time to care for yourself. You're selfish if you do
Mm,
this.
mm.
And not, of course there's extremes to everything. Because I had somebody say, well, that's not self-care. But it is. They're trying to say that it's like super selfish if you take time for yourself. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, it's not.
Yeah.
Because the more you are in step with God, and I mean, literally, God created the Sabbath. God created rest. He didn't create rest for everybody but moms. He
Mm.
created rest for everybody and moms.
Mm,
And so helping moms understand that it's okay to rest and it's
mm.
okay to put the to-do list aside Because if you are focusing on your nutrition and your time with the Lord and your healthy motion and your water and all these things and your stress management, you're going to be a better nurturer for yourself and for everybody else, instead of giving your all the time, and you're always on, and then you're snippy and you're snappy because you're not taking care of yourself.
Yeah, and I love that you brought up the Sabbath, because I was thinking that. That's why I smiled when you said it, because I'm like, you're speaking my language. And two things that I always point out is that Jesus even went off by himself a lot. How many times in the Bible they said Jesus went off by himself?
Yes.
So if Jesus can take time for himself, because that's where your relationship with God gets fed from, that personal time, then why is it bad for anybody, or selfish, for you to take time for yourself? And it goes back to exactly what you said. It goes back to the Sabbath. God understands that we have things to do. He understands that he has given us a lot of responsibilities, and they will take up the majority of our time. But you have to be intentional in making that time for yourself and including him in that time. So I totally agree with that. Andrea, seems like you want to say something.
Yeah. And it's interesting too. I think one of the reasons why God has called me and us to Christian moms is because I think I've seen how sometimes we create these stories about what we think a good Christian mom looks like, or a healthy Christian mom, or a holy, healthy Christian mom, and there's stories that are just, they're not from the Lord. They're pulled a little bit from society, pulled a little bit from, church culture, like mixed up with what our own thoughts, because the enemy obviously loves to get in there and like twist all sorts of truth into.
Absolutely.
Like to monkey around with that. And so what I've seen in a lot of, like, I've seen for myself as, especially in the younger years as a mom, and in seeing in the moms that come to us, is this, and certainly what I was doing with the sugar was like keeping God at arm's length, like not understanding, like sometimes I think we can treat him as a genie, which was what I was doing. Like, you can just heal me, or like having stories in my head about what health should look like, or how God should heal me, and not knowing what it meant to actually allow him to come into the process and trust him with my health. And so I love being able to help, like the word shepherding just come to mind, like shepherd moms along in that, like, what does it look like to actually put God in charge of your health and give over that control, like be willing to release some of the stories that have been built up over the years. Yeah. And one of my favorite things that we hear from clients is always, I am like, my relationship with the Lord is stronger. Like that is consistent feedback I get from my clients. And that's like the best thing. That's the only thing that matters at the end. Right. Is our relationship with the Lord. And I know it's because they're finally like partnering with them. It's like that yoke. But it can be a scary place. Again, like that's why I resisted on the sugar addiction. I was like, I don't know. That seems too scary and hard. And I like the peanut M&Ms too. So.
Yeah. Well, scripture tells us too, and I talk about this with my clients. Scripture tells us to boast in our weaknesses. That is when Christ's strength becomes perfect. So we are to be glad about being weak. But the enemy and the world tells us you can't show your weakness.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So and that's another thing too, is women are like, I'm so glad I'm a part of this because I can't do it alone. And we're not, that's another thing. We're not designed to do it alone. We're designed to be in community.
Exactly. And I like what Andrew was saying, that we have these stories in our heads about, and they come from a variety of places. I totally agree. But they usually come down to like a judgment or criticalness of we're not measuring up. And of course, the enemy loves, like you said, to add to that. And I think sometimes we keep God at arm's length without realizing it's because we think he's just going to bring another level of judgment to the situation. Because, of course, he's big God. He's holy. He's perfect. And, of course, I'm not doing stuff right. So he's just going to keep telling me the same thing that I'm already in my head, already in my ear. Society already tells me. And so you think you're going to like disappoint him, but God cares. Like some people, they tell you what they think you should be doing or why or whatever, even to yourself. But God cares way more than that. Like he actually cares about, the Bible talks about the hairs on your head. So if he cares about the hairs on your head, of course he cares about your health. Of course he cares about your stress. So we need to put the judgment aside. I mean, he is a judge, but his loving and concern and nurturing of you comes first. And he will, like you say, partner with you and help you get to that place, as opposed to just pointing the finger at you and saying, you're not doing this right. Like he cares much more than that. And so I think that's something important that, even mothers need to understand. I think everybody in general, actually, because people are always kind of not understanding the extent to which God loves us, that he's concerned with, of course, eternity, but now here, he wants to help you. He wants to help you. He wants to show you that he's there. He supports you. Like you said, we're not meant to do this alone. He knows that. And so he wants to help us get to the place that he created us to be in, actually. Another thing is what you were saying about the sugar thing, is that a lot of people, because we have this emptiness from not having God in our lives, because that's where it comes from. He was meant to be an integral part of our everyday lives. And when we don't have him there, we start to try to fill that void with other things. Rather it's food, people, usually it's unhealthy stuff because it doesn't go there. And we end up coming out with problems. And so we have to remove those things and let God come and fill that space. And then everything kind of naturally aligns with itself, your spiritual health, your mental health. Of course, it takes time, but we need to move these habits out of the place, these comforting habits that we have that are actually bad, to remove those things so God can actually fill that space. So I can totally understand how in your program, you will help people, even though it's kind of centered around eating and dieting, how that will help someone have a closer relationship with God because you're doing it from a more spiritual perspective. So
yeah. And that Sugar Addiction Authority is one component of it. We have a spirit-led productivity course, relationship, finding peace like a river in relationship course. We have a mindful eating course, holy motion consistency. I mean, we cover all of it. But one of the biggest drawing points is that sugar, because that's what the world says, the sugar in the food and all of that. So
and I mean, it's sugar in everything. Oh my goodness. Like it's sugar. Like my husband is from another country, and so they eat a little bit more naturally than we do. And he's like, you guys have sugar in everything. Like it's ridiculous.
Yeah. I do want to say something on the dieting. So we don't teach women how to diet because diet culture it's what leads so many women into that trap, that cyclical trap. So instead of doing anything that seems like it's a diet, what we teach women is, again, how to honor their bodies by listening to the Lord. Teaching them how to listen to their bodies, how to gain confidence that the Holy Spirit will guide you. Like when you ask God for that wisdom, he will show it to you. Like you just have to be willing to hear what he has to say instead of plugging your ears, which again, it's like really easy to do. And I've done it way too many times. But I just want to be clear, because there's so much body shame, self-condemnation, everything that comes in through diet culture.
Yeah. And I get from everything you ladies talked about so far, what I get is that it's a program that starts from the inside out. It doesn't just focus on the outside, but it tries to helps you to get okay spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then the overflow of that then goes into better eating, better taking care of yourself, and things like that. And I mean, who created the body? Like who created the whole thing? Like he knows exactly what it needs. He knows what we're missing. He knows that when you're on the edge that day because your kids are driving you nuts, that maybe if you ate a better breakfast, that, you wouldn't be so much on the edge. So he knows all those things and how they're connected. So he definitely will be the person or the being to help you kind of navigate all these different components in a much more balanced way. So absolutely. So before because I'm sure we can continue talking about this, as I say with all of my guests, of course. So let people know about your program, where they can find you, your website. I know you also have a Facebook group and things like that.
So we have a Facebook group, Holy Healthy Christian Moms, same title. We have a podcast by the same title, and then the membership, we'd have to it'd be easier to put the link in the chat, or if you're interested, just type WHCM and then we can provide you that link. But the membership, it's the programs, which is kind of like the Netflix like version or part of the membership, but it's more than that. Where ladies really start to see the transformation is with the group coaching that they get. And we give up to 3 calls a month of access, because we know that is what is needed often to help like shut down the lies of the enemy, like all the negative self-talk that comes in, and just have that ongoing accountability and support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Did you have anything about?
No, yeah, just we keep it real simple. Holy Healthy Christian Moms. Just come find us, Holy Healthy Christian Moms. And we do have a newsletter, not a newsletter. We have an email list. So if you're interested on being on our email list, we send out emails every week just to kind of help our members and our non-members alike to just think about their health. Just little tidbits on, what can we think about this week to focus in, and what are some small shifts that we can make to be wholly healthy for him, because that's what it's all about. So
yeah, absolutely. And for anybody, I know Andrea doesn't know this yet, but I'll say it now that all of their links will be above this post if you're interested in reaching out. And so can you talk, so you offer individual coaching, it sounds like you offer group coaching, and then can you let everybody know a little bit about the Facebook group that you have?
Yes, and so we also offer 2-on-1 coaching too. So you can get Andrea and I both coaching, which is something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, so our Facebook group, it's a free community for Christian moms. Really, there's some people who aren't moms who are in there, where we offer all kinds of free advice and free opportunities to learn about being wholly healthy with Christ. We do scripture themes for the month, so we offer scripture every Sunday to focus on for the week. We also do some really amazing giveaways in there. Every month we do a free massage giveaway. And we also pop in free Starbucks gift cards just for different things, because we love to help women eliminate the excuses to provide self-care. So
yeah. Wow, it sounds great. I feel the love from here. It sounds like a very like I said, we as women, we really need that support. Everybody needs support, but of course, for moms and women, we kind of need some special care that kind of speaks to the needs that we have. So it sounds great. So thank you, ladies, for joining me for my About My Father's Business Thursdays. Everybody who's watching, please make sure you check them out. Join their Facebook group if this sounds like something that would be useful for you. And usually I ask, do you have any, I know you talked about the giveaway, but do you have any special events or anything like that's coming up? You didn't talk about your podcast either, but I think people can find out more about that in the group. So yeah.
Yes. I was gonna say, so if you're watching this before June, we had a number of ladies in our membership expressing the desire to go through the Sugar Addiction Authority as a group, because with the library, they can go through things at their own pace. But they were actually saying, I'd love to go through it and know other women are doing it right with me.
Okay.
So especially if overcoming a sugar addiction, knowing what that looks like, where you don't feel deprived, where it's actually enjoyable, is something that God has been speaking to you about, and you want to get in on this cohort, then type SAA, like Sugar Addiction Authority, in the comments, and then we'll reach out and talk to you about what that would look like. It would be part of the whole membership, because we only do it that way. It's so that we'll get the transformation. But that can be that's something that we have coming up in the next few weeks.
Okay. Wow. That sounds really good. I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that. And so we'll go ahead and wrap up here. Again, thank you, ladies, for coming and sharing about your business and your stories. I feel inspired. This morning, I was like, I really need to come up with, because I keep saying, you need an exercise routine. You need an exercise routine. And of course, it keeps getting pushed by the wayside. So this morning, I was like, it's getting nice outside now. I don't know where you ladies are, but I'm in Minnesota. So the sun is coming out, and I'm like, okay, I have to do it. I have to do it. So I felt determined this morning, but after this conversation, I'm like super duper determined now. I have to get this started like right now and stop making excuses. So thank you for encouraging me even in that. So
absolutely.
All right. So thank you, ladies. You have a great day, and thank you guys for watching. You have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.